I'd never liked tubs before. We'd drive out there with the bale processor and there's just hay everywhere. Just alone in feed savings, they're easy to pay for. The upfront investment is not fun. And they all say, we can get you tubs that do just as good a job for less. Perfect, prove it to me. I'm Brent Shaw, live south of Chadron, Nebraska. We run 350 mama cows out here and background some calves. We wean all our own stuff in our own lot here and feed them. Everything's been on Riomax year-round. Raise a lot of our own feed ourselves to feed our cattle. We have fed loose mineral, OAs. I never was a big tub guy. I was pretty interested in the feed savings at the beginning on the Riomax, and we definitely saw a savings on our cows. We did find they were probably eating about 1/3 less than what they have in the past. 2 winters ago, we were saving 22 cents a day of feed, and the tub was costing us 21 cents a day to have it out. My old rule of thumb was 1 bale for 40 head of cows, and it would have been slicked up. They would have ate more, and we were feeding 1 bale to 60 head of cows, and they were still leaving feed behind. It took about 2 weeks of being on the Rio tubs to start seeing the change. And then after about 2 weeks, we'd drive out there with the bale processor and there's just hay everywhere. And the cows are still scattered out and not interested in coming in. So they really slowed down on feed and stayed in as good or better condition. Our cow herd's quite a bit older, and I was pretty concerned with breed up. We were in the drought and feed was tight, and we were just, I was interested to see the feed savings and then really see the breed back, if we could get our cows bred back. We typically are rough numbers kind of in that 80% is what we've done in the past. A lot of old cows, short grass, drought years, I mean there's a lot of variables, but we would typically run in that 80%. And it was a drought year and the hay was tight, so I wasn't feeding my cows as good as I should. They went to grass in not poor condition, but not great condition. We kicked them out in January, and when we preg checked in September after having the bulls in for 60 days, we were over 90% conception. Oh, a bred cow's worth $500 more. So, I mean, 90% or 10%, that's 35 more cows. If you figure rough number, $500 on 30 cows, that's 15,000. Our heifers bred back better than we'd ever had them. The grass was short. It was not ideal conditions, and we got a huge bump in our conception rates. We had a 75-day calving period. We probably calved 75% of them in the first 20 days in the first cycle. It really tightened up our calving cycle. Really tightened it up. The AI conception was better on the cows and on the heifers. We probably saw 10% better. The AI is worth a lot for our replacement heifers that we're keeping for ourselves, because then you're getting you're jumping ahead 2 generations on your next cow that's coming, and that to me is worth about $500 in itself. The upfront investment is not fun. And that first half a load came and the bill came, and it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. But when you sit and figure your feed savings, just alone in feed savings, they're easy to pay for. And I have 8 different competitors driving my yard every year, and they all say, we can get you tubs that do just as good a job for less. And perfect, prove it to me. And we sit down and look at their information, and when you start figuring the competitors' tubs, they're as much per head per day as the Rio tubs, because the Rio tubs are so low consumption. I mean, by the time you figure for every 1 ton of Rio, you're going to put out 2 or 3 tons of loose mineral. When you really sit down and look at what you've paid in the past for your loose mineral for other tubs, you're paying the same. at the end of the day. I mean, we'll put a tub out in June when we go to grass and not typically have to put another one out till about the 1st of August. I have not found a situation where they're over consuming. And that is on grass, on winter feed grounds, or in the dry lot feed lot. They eat what they need to eat. They don't just sit there and eat them like they do on the other tubs. In the other tubs, when you start looking at per head per day cost, they're as expensive. Our loose mineral we fed was costing about $1,100 a ton. And between the consumption rate and the loss to rain and wind, the Rio tub is way cheaper. It saved us a huge amount of money. So the tubs themselves pay for themselves just as a standalone product, in my opinion. And then you take your added benefits to them, and that's where they really pay for themselves. Through the feed savings, the conception rates, the healthier calves. That is the other thing, our calves are healthier. Then it's pretty easy to see the tubs pay for themselves.